One for you.
One, okay.
What's up, Tim? How are you? Fine. I know what. Well, it looks like you're out. Yeah. Dance team? Yeah. You are? Hey, buddy. No, what's up?
I'm an excellent dancer, Tim.
Bet you are.
Good evening. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask that roll be called, please.
Feldman,
Here.
Olshauser,
Here.
Humbles,
Here.
Smith, here, Tyra,
Here.
Wagenbach,
Here.
Wisdom.
Here.
Thank you. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The board will now move on to the public participation portion of the meeting. We're going to begin that with Dr. Dearman and the superintendent's report. Dr. Dearman.
Superintendent report, FOIA request. This month we had one FOIA request, and Mr. McKenzie's in the process of fulfilling that. Kudos to Dr. Adrian for his work with various custodial staffs across the district and different contractors. Summer projects are moving along very well, so thank you for your efforts there. A reminder to the board, beginning next month, we are moving Wednesdays back to Wednesdays off of the Thursdays, so just a reminder. If anyone's looking for a job, since I anticipate a large number of people here, we have many non-certified positions still open, so feel free to apply for those. And then two more items. Congratulations to Jack Piper. He was named the 2024 Peoria Journal-Star Baseball Player of the Year. Jack was a senior at Dunlap High School this year, through 74 strikeouts, had a .63 ERA, in 67 innings as an Eagle. He helped lead the team to a 28-7 record, which also tied for the conference championship. So, good season for them. I also wanted to give, as part of my superintendent report, a financial update, but I will defer to CFO Mike McKenzie to do that on my behalf. And that is all that I have. Mr. McKenzie can take it from here.
I sent out a report for you earlier today. We got our property taxes from the county today, which was what I was kind of waiting for, because that's the big unknown as of this point, is how much property taxes we were going to get. So that was deposited today. So it's always nice when they get them to us in June. So printed the report. I forgot to change the heading. The projections are as of today, not as of April. So we're same report I used. But I just wanted to clarify, this report includes all of our expenses that you're approving tonight. It includes the first payroll of the month, the actual numbers, and an estimate for the payroll that's next week, because we don't have the actual final numbers yet, so I had to estimate those. And then a variety of estimates for interest and deposits and different things like that that we haven't in there. The big unknown about it was that $590,000 I'm expecting from the state. Most of it should be here. Hopefully all of it will be here. It's showing as vouchered out on the state website, but it's just hasn't shown as paid on the state website. We haven't got it yet. So that is the big unknown right now. So a lot more positive than I've shown in the past. Still a deficit in the education fund and the O&M fund. A few surpluses in other funds, but overall, the gross numbers, it's a slight surplus over revenues over expenses for the year. So
That's the question. So that property tax that came in compared to last year, how much difference was it?
It was more than last year. We levied more than last year because the EAV went up, but, and it was a slightly higher percentage than last year. Last year it was like 48% of what we levied. This year was like 49% of what we levied, so.
I mean, that, you said 590,000 or something, right?
The 590,000 has to do with federal revenue from
okay.
the state, but the property taxes, we got about $22 million today, a little over 22 million. across
Versus
all the
last
funds.
year, I'm just curious how much increase that was. Are they paying more or less early?
Our rate stayed the same, but our actual levy went up.
I don't care about that. I'm asking the owners, the property owners, are they paying early or are they paying later?
They apparently paid earlier.
Okay.
Because we got slightly higher percentage than we normally get, so. We always get in the upper 40s, but usually it's like 48%. This year we got like 49%, so.
Little bit.
People must be paying for a little early, on average, a little earlier, so.
Okay.
But overall, it's a positive, improvement. We've been trying to keep all the unnecessary expenses down. I complain to people all the time about spending money and, say no a lot as much as possible, but most of our expenses are salaries and benefits, so you gotta pay your employees, so, anyway.
Very good ending. Thank you so much. Do you have more, Dr. Dearman?
No, I just get ready for the next presentation.
Okay. At this time, we'll move on to public comments.
Oh,
Is there anyone?
before we do,
Okay.
look, people out in the hallway, there's a bench here, if you wanna come inside and sit on the bench instead of standing out or you're sort of home.
This time, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. I see one. I have to give my speech, Mr. Hall, so before addressing the board, I'd like to remind you of our process per board policy 2:230. We ask that when addressing the board, please identify yourself and be brief. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect to and civility towards others. Individuals less than 18 years of age are permitted to address the board if accompanied by his or her parent or guardian. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversation during the public portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration at a later date if necessary. To be respectful of others and to protect confidentiality, complaints against individuals, students, staff members, or board members, either named or unnamed, shall not be orally presented to the Board of Education. Such complaints should be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making the charges, and delivered to the Board of Education Secretary. At this time, I'd like to ask anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward, sign the public participation sheet. Then the speaker may come to the podium and begin speaking into the microphone, stating their name and the topic they will be addressing. Mr. Hall, are you going to go ahead? Sure. Thank you.
Dr. Humbles, Dr. Dearman, members of the school board, as you know, my name is Mick Hall. I have the pleasure of serving as the president of the Touchdown Club, as well as being a former and future candidate for school board. I rise to offer my support for the proposed training center, which will be discussed later tonight. With our growing high school student population, this facility will address some of the needs for wrestling, track, cross-country, band, baseball, softball, and other sports and activities. The proposed training facility will be used by thousands of student athletes over the years to come. I know there may be some who think the proposal doesn't go far enough. I appreciate that perspective, but providing a meaningful remedy that addresses some of the biggest issues facing student athletes in our high school is an important and long overdue step. There may be some who feel the proposed facility is not as important as other programs, which all deserve proper funding, including special education and vocational education, two issues that are important to me. but I believe the proposed facility is a step in the right direction for our high school and our district. By the way, if you are considering a name for the proposed facility, allow me to suggest that based upon the criticism that I and Mr. Tyra received during the last election, that it be named the Dunlap Taj Mahal.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Hi, my name is Steve Carter. I've had the pleasure of coaching track and field in this district for over 20 years. I really applaud the efforts of trying to get a training facility for our athletes. It's highly overdue. I just wish at this point that we go a step farther. Right now, some of my concerns are the track, from my perspective, is 160 meters, not a 200 indoor track and field. The 200 would allow us to train better. Another area of concern I have is the pole vault area. When we are practicing pole vault, it's in the middle of there, and it takes up all 3 courts. Therefore, if we're actually doing pole vault, no one else could be in there, or if anybody else is having a practice, we couldn't practice pole vault. Just a concern I have. As a PE teacher in the district, which I've done for 20 years, I have a problem with, we're building this beautiful facility, and the PE department can't take advantage of it because it's not connected to the school. And to me, that's just not a utilization of our assets when it's a PE, from a PE perspective. So I love the idea, I truly do. I think it's a step in the right direction. I just wish we'd make it go a step farther and make this have a chance to be what other schools want to be. Take a look at it. So thank you very much.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Jamero Rainey. I'm a parent of a former Dunlap athlete, or 2 Dunlap athletes that competed here, so I'm familiar with the challenges of getting up in the morning, trying to get them in for practice. My daughter Brittany is my oldest, currently holds 2 school records here at Dunlap. She holds the record for the 100-meter high hurdles. She also holds the record for the state record for Class 2A for the 4x200 meter relay. Now, I understand, thought of a new practice facility, by all means, definitely get it. But I will be a little biased about, if we're doing something, we should think bigger. And especially when we come and look at sport of track and field, Coach Carter already mentioned a few things about that, which I'll just give my perspective, again, first as a parent, but a little bit of background about me. So first, for the state of Illinois and the Illinois High School Association, I'm the head clinician of track and field and cross country. Nationally, I am a member of the National Federation of High Schools Rules Committee, starting my first term this summer, and I will carry on for the next 3 years after that. In addition to that, from USA Track and Field, for USATF Illinois, I am the certification chair of officials. Nationally, I am on the USA Track and Field National Officials Committee that selected the officials that will be at Eugene this weekend for our athletes that will be serving and trying to represent our country at the Olympics trial starting this weekend. When I look at the facility and I think of the words of Daniel Burnham, always think big, have big plans. And when I see that it's a 160-meter facility, that is a bit of a concern for me, especially seeing the way that the track is laid out. There's not really enough space to be able to do everything. One thing that I can say that when I'm up in different places, especially, and I'll just stick with the high school level, I don't know of any high school lately that has built a facility with an indoor track that is only 160 meters. This school here, and again, being a dad that came up through the process, I was used to going to Galesburg, or going up to Homewood Flossmoor, or going over to Jackson. When I know that if you build it, they will come. You have the space, you put in the facilities that will work. It will be an opportunity to have your athletes do their best at their home facility. And there is nothing better than having that opportunity. again, I know it's a lot of money, I know it's a lot of other things, but there's always this feeling of you wouldn't want to do something and then later come back and say, man, I wish we would have taken that next step.
Coach, can I ask you a question before you sit down?
Yes, sir.
Would it be your preference that the kids keep running in the hallways instead of in this? Because that's always a possibility. Would that be your preference?
As an athlete that grew up running hallways before, no, it wouldn't be my preference. My only thing is I'm saying I'm not supportive of what's happening, but the hope is the opportunity to possibly think bigger if at all possible.
Well, when we sit here on this board, we have to do things that a lot of you don't have to. And we have to be considerate of all of our programs across the board, all of our groups, our unions, our administration, our costs, our facilities, our books, and everything. We have to draw the lines sometimes. And we can't just put whatever we want. This is a facility that we think is in an affordable place that would be 100% better than anything we have, or frankly, anybody else in the region has. So it's a little difficult to see it. As soon as this comes out, it hasn't even been presented, and it's getting criticized. So if the preference would be to stay with the current program, you know, we can save a lot of time and money and not even bother with it. If that would be the preference. Other coach sitting down, would that be your preference?
Sir, I didn't think we could do so much more if we have the opportunity.
Would that be your preference? It's a yes or no question.
This isn't supposed to be back and forth.
I think it's like,
Well, can I say something?
Yes.
With all due respect, thank you, first of all, for giving us your opinion and your thoughts and your experience. So, this is an informative session, so we want to gather your feelings and thoughts, and we want to share that and have some respectful discussion around that. So, I will say, like, regarding the most current facilities that you see going up, at least around this region, a lot of them do have 200 for those reasons. We are a little limited in some funds and some room, but it's worth talking about and see, you know, what's out there.
If, and truthfully, I understand. I'm an accountant by trade. That's what I do daily. So I understand cost benefit and other things of that nature. But it's thinking of looking ahead down the road, 5 years, 10 years. The minute one of us in the middle line, I start to do something, I know the others will follow suit. And then it'll be this thing of, and so for me, one of the things that I still keep in mind is when we have our outdoor track championships for the middle line. Some schools don't get a chance to host. Limestone doesn't host. Other schools are always going back over to the east side. There's nothing better to me than having that ability to have those events in your home. If there's a way that can happen, that would be great. And again, trust me, I truly understand the challenges of cost and other things. But I also believe in the memories that are made, the things that happen, the chance that you can do that at home. There's nothing else.
Thank you for speaking. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the board?
Hi, good evening. I'm Mary Cave. I am a parent of an incoming freshman and an incoming sixth grader. I wasn't going to speak, but I thought I would give you my perspective. About 4 years ago, we actually moved from the town of Mount Zion. And Mount Zion built an indoor facility similar to this. I thought it was very similar. I didn't realize Mount Zion is a little bit larger. They're able to hold track meets, the travel basketball and travel volleyball. Youth sports are able to host tournaments. They actually generate revenue for their organization because they host every Sunday. So when my son Ben was on travel basketball, it was great because he really never traveled. We were just in Mount Zion and everybody came to us. But I just wanted to show my support. It is an absolutely wonderful opportunity for the community. At Mount Zion, I could go in at 6 a.m. and walk the track. I could walk the track while my son was practicing baseball in the winter. The robotics team got to use the facility when the gyms were being I would be glad to help. I think there are some really creative ways that we could improve the campus, improve traffic flow, and get this to fit in there. So, thank you very much. Thank you for considering this, and I'm sure my sons would be super thankful to be able to do this and use it before they graduate.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, this concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to the information discussion items. Thank you, everyone who came this evening. Next, Dr. Dearman will be presenting information about the training center proposal. Dr. Dearman.
Well, thank you for bringing that loaded. With me, I have Nathan Billany with Estes Construction, and if you want to introduce your folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. Nathan Billany with Estes Construction. I have with me Kendall Dieter. He's in charge of our pre-construction for this particular project. Blake Burns.
Is that microphone on? Excuse me, the board can't hear you either, so. Maybe you need to talk louder.
There you go.
What about now? Is that good?
Thank you.
Sorry. Nathan Billany with Estes Construction. I have with me Kendall Dieter, pre-construction manager at Estes Construction. And we've got Blake Burns, who's the director of our pre-construction department at Estes Construction. Thank you for having us here. Happy to help answer any questions as the presentation goes through.
Thank you, Mr. Billany. Go ahead and get into this. I'm not going to sit here and read slides to you and insult your intelligence. You guys can read through these as they're up here. But the reason we're here is because of conversations that have really been going on for a couple of years now, primarily around the strategic plan, and the largest committee of strategic planning was facilities. That was headed up by Dr. Adrian. I believe overall through the strategic planning process, we probably had close to 50 different people involved in those conversations and helping identify areas of need. The two greatest areas of need as identified by that committee are not new to anyone. First one being wilder weight, which I will have some comments on later on tonight. And the second being extracurricular activities, which we're obviously talking about now. The current state of affairs, as you can see, our athletic programs have increased. We've added several things in recent years, specifically within my tenure, and then some existing programs have grown in numbers as well. And then I asked Mr. Holmes to kind of give us an idea of what the gym utilization looks like at different points throughout the year. And as you can see in late September, through early March, 91 morning meetings before school, and then in about the same time frame, 94 evening activities scheduled after due to limited space. We do have the district activity center, but it's obviously showing its age and it's confined in size and limits some of the usage, but it's used basically nonstop as well as our elementary gyms. So specific urgent needs, as you can see, there are many. If you come during basically any time of the year, you'll find kids in our hallways doing something extracurricular based. Whether it be the dance team, cross country, track and field, we can have multiple people speak to that, and they already have. Our poor wrestling team, is state champion this year. They're up on the balcony of the high school gym. They don't have really their own personal dedicated space to practice. And then as you can see, our athletes are at a disadvantage in the springtime. If we have poor weather, we don't really have a place for them to practice like they should or could, and this would afford them the opportunity to do so. So the proposal, what we're looking at is an indoor training center 42,500 square feet on the corner. And I've got some pictures to show that more specifically. A cost not to exceed $8.5 million in accordance with the following proposed plans. So this is what it looks like. And it's on the corner, catty corner from the library. And these are renderings that were provided to us of what it would look like. This is a layout of where it would be. As you look at this layout, it is very tight on space, but it does afford easy entry and exit, as well as some additional parking. That is not enough parking to accommodate the space, but remember, we are building an additional parking lot on the back side of the teacher parking lot, which will have a number of spaces as well. Here is a rough floor plan to go over what this is, as you are looking at a 160-meter indoor track, which would house 3 full-size basketball courts on the interior. There is an area for pole vault and long jump, and on the left-hand side, in the back left-hand corner, would be a dance room. Next to that would be a storage area. We would also have an additional storage area with a cutout for a indoor golf simulator, and obviously some restrooms and a small training room as well within the facility. Here's a 3D rendering of said diagram. And then to give an idea of how, some people alluded to this, but here are some specifics provided by Mr. Holmes as far as the number of students that this would impact. And as you can see, we're not talking just sports here. It impacts all activities across multiple grade levels, including Dunlap Rec, which are our feeder programs, which build our programs to be successful as they are as time progresses. But you're looking at 3,568 students impacted by this facility, and that may be a little low, but that's certainly a good starting point to give the impact that this facility would have. With that, some questions that will come up. We've had a number of questions come up already, but I wanted to kind of touch on some of the ones that I've received already. Does the board want me to go into the questions or ask questions?
Maybe highlight a few questions.
Okay. The first question is there an option for some turf on one of the sections? And there really is not, because if you were to turf one section, it's really not enough like one of the basketball courts. It would take that court out of play for use on the other areas, and it's not really big enough to do a whole lot with lacrosse or soccer that would use that primarily. Plus, we do have the football field, which is turf that, you know, if it does rain, they could have access to that, and we also still have the DAC. The biggest question I've had, you know, is how are we going to pay for this? What is the recommendation? The recommendation is to pay this out of current reserves, and then the follow-up question, well, what is the impact of that $8 to $8.5 million? We have a financial profile score that's provided to us by Gorin's independent auditor every year. That profile score, one of the items that's indicated on there is the days cash on hand. We ended with 354. I asked Russ, our independent auditor, if we were to take that $8 to $8.5 million out, what would that do to our days cash on hand? It would bring it down to 302 days cash on hand. To put that in perspective, in order to get a 4.0, which is the highest rating on your financial profile score from the state, they require 180 days cash on hand. So we're at almost double that now, and even if we were to spend the $8 and $8.5 million, we would still be at 300 plus days. So it is a lot of money, but you know, it's really a simple question. One, do the students need it? And I think we can clearly demonstrate, and you've heard, yes, it is certainly needed. It's been needed for a while. And two, can we afford it? And the answer is yes, we can. We have about $38 million in reserves right now. If we were to pull that money out, we would still have plenty of money on hand, and it's demonstrated by our independent auditor confirming that. Questions you have for me?
Does the board have any questions?
Pardon?
Yeah, I have a question for you. Just something I've heard, I've received several questions, I'm sure we all have, so it just might be good to touch on it. So I've heard a lot about location, right? Why that location? So maybe if you could touch on that. to inform folks?
Several other locations were looked at and explored as options. Proximity is a big factor in that this is not attached to the school, obviously, but very close within walking distance, not really much further than the building is to the football field now. Many of our varsity athletes do drive, I understand that, but many do not. So it's a matter of access to the facility and having it close to the students and within walking distance.
Yeah. This may be a question for one of you guys possibly. So is there room for expansion down the road?
So this was one of the things at the beginning of this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, this was one of the options that we explored early on.
There you go. I'll click the button when you're done. You're good.
There we go. So we'd explored adding on, right, or the potential to do so later on. It's tight on that space, but we did ultimately come up with the conclusion that you could. It's not going to be massive, and it wouldn't obviously come out width-wise for any additional space, but you could expand length-wise. It would require it.
If there's one thing that history's taught us here with our growing community is our facilities, we outgrow them at times. So ideally, we do something that years from now, we're not, wondering why we didn't do more, or at least we're setting ourselves up, with a position down the road, if we have the funds and the need,
Yeah.
and the capacity of our population keeps increasing, we can address that down the road.
Yeah.
Mr. Tyre, I understand the gold standard, no one will argue, is the 200-meter track, and that would, if money was not an object and space wasn't an object, that would be preferred. But working within the parameters of the space that's there and the ability to get it within a reasonable number that I can get the board to handle is also a contributing factor to the decision to have it there.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Is it air conditioned?
It is air conditioned and heated.
What's the estimated operating expenses?
I actually had Nathan run some numbers on that, and just operating, he was estimating, not trying to talk for you, but I've got the microphone, right around $20,000 to $25,000 a year.
A year?
Yeah, for heating and cooling.
And lights and everything, 25,000. All right, so we have a deficit now in operations and educations, and we'll have a deficit next year, which will also come out of reserves.
Correct?
And then we have an increase because the increase to our deficit because of union contract, there's increases next year, about 200,000. Where's the money going to come from to run it?
Well, first of all, I've been hearing this same conversation for 7 years now that I've been here. And honestly, not much has changed since I've been here, and we've been through years where there was a negative EAV, and we're no longer in that situation. We had an 8.1% increase this year. We have an announcement that is confirmed and realistic of a 100-plus home subdivision with starting points of $500,000. That's going to bring additional revenue into the district. I had individual meetings with every single board member about a month ago going over finances, preparing for this conversation, explaining some of that. 86 cents of every dollar that comes in is spent on people and programs. The other 14 cents is for everything else. So we are very efficient as far as our operational costs. And that's something that's easily researched on our state report card, and we've actually received accommodations for being efficient. But I don't think that we need to panic as far as how are we going to pay for this. There is money in reserves. We are on a positive swing. We got good news today about where our budget was at, where it ended, where we thought it was going to be, or it was better. So I'll take good news over the opposite of that. So I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, but yeah, we also need to get more efficient and start looking at some things and tightening the belt, and I think we can do that.
And about Welterweight School, how much bigger will the new Welterweight be than the current one?
It will be going to be recommended building that is going to house 600 students.
And there's currently 250?
350.
350?
Correct.
And there'll be operating costs associated with that that'll go up as well.
Anytime you expand space, you're going to have higher operational costs, correct.
Which is more of a deficit that's going to be covered by reserves.
or by increased EAV or other revenue streams that we find.
I'm really disappointed that we're not talking about the school. I mean, everyone deserves this training center. And I think what we're doing is kind of ridiculous, going into the hallways and not having places for people to practice. But is this more important than a school where kids are breathing in mildew and drinking from lead pipes?
Give me 15 minutes and I'll discuss that.
Okay, well, everyone might leave by then. I was elected on fiscal responsibility, and putting this before the school is not fiscally responsible, and it's a disservice to the elementary kids that are at Wilder Way, in my opinion.
Why don't you talk about Wilder Way right now?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and address.
Yeah, I was fully prepared tonight to had a full slideshow ready to go to present about the referendum for Wilder Weight, but that is no longer needed. On June 7th, there was legislation that was passed and signed by the governor that allows you to build an elementary school without going to referendum, but you have to meet 3 criteria. First, it has to be a standalone facility, which it can't be an addition. And we've never talked about adding on to Wilder Weight. We know the condition of the building. Mrs. Smith, you just mentioned some of the conditions. Secondly, you have to be able to expand pre-K or K throughout the district. Well, we had talked about moving some of the early childhood to Wilder Weight because of the space issues and the lack of meeting rooms in other buildings to have our school psychs and social workers work with students. Dr. Adrian has met with every psych and social worker and went around every building trying to find additional space, but if we could move some of that, that would certainly be a win. So the 3 conditions are: 1, standalone facility; 2, expansion of pre-K or K throughout the district, which we were going to do anyway. And then thirdly, you got to have the debt capacity to do it, which we obviously have. Our debt limit is 135 million. We have over 100 million debt capacity, and some of that could even be argued because of the fact that Valley is counted against us in that, but we're paying with that with alternative revenue bonds, which is the county schools facility sales tax. So really no local dollars go towards that as far as property taxes. I had that confirmed with Stiefel, which is a bond company, Bernardi, which is a bond company, Jay Greening, who is our attorney, and Chapman and Cutler confirmed it as well. So my assessment of that legislation is correct, and it's been confirmed by 4 different people.
So thank you for that thorough research. So that means we do not have to go to referendum. We know that we're going to build Wilder Weight, and many of us felt that Wilder Weight should be the top priority. So it sounds to me like you're recommending that we can go forward with both projects after this ruling from the governor.
Correct, and that does not change financing of Wilder Weight either, and that we can still do that at no tax increase.
Tax rate.
The tax rate that's levied within bond and interest.
Property taxes go up every year, so your bills may go up every year as usual, but the rate that we charge is not going to go up at this point.
I live in the district too, and mine went up this year, but the school rate did not. It stayed exactly the same, but the assessed value of the home went up, but this school does not determine that. But we do determine our rate.
And we could build a bigger facility if we had the property somewhere, but the tax rate would have to go up.
Potentially correct.
Without draining all around reserves, and we do have to have some reserves.
Yes.
Thank you.
You know, I just want to say I'm on the same page with Linda on this. It is our top priority. That new school is top priority.
It is.
And
I think we've all.
this is priority number 2, but we can, as we've learned, we can move forward with both and be financially responsible for our taxpayers.
Mr. Tyre, as you know, because you were on the referendum committee, we worked with a company called Beyond Your Base. And that was a concern of the committee is if we were to announce these, at the same time, would the training center potentially diminish the potential success rate of a referendum for Wilder Weight? And after sharing that our information, our situation, the answer was no. They did not think it would, but it was about messaging, and the messaging was going to be a win-win. We were going to do something on the academic side with Wilder Weight, and then on the extracurricular side with the training center. Well, now the Wilder Weight does not need a referendum. Sorry for your work on the committee. The battery just so I'll just talk loud. So thank you, but it is not needed for the referendum now.
Very good.
I'd like to make a couple points.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Mrs. Holzhauser.
Yeah, I just have a comment for, Dr. Dearman. Absolutely, I'm gonna echo, both Linda, Andrew, probably everyone on the board. Wilder Way is very important. My question to you, Scott, do we have a preliminary timeline for Wilder Way? A project timeline?
He's coming over. The microphone just went out.
Yes, we do. So I spoke.
Is that something that we could do? And I don't know what the timeline is. You'll have to let us know what that timeline is, that we could potentially have some economies of scale there with doing the Wilder Way School at the same time or close to the same time as this training center?
Absolutely. Wednesday, July 17th is our next school board meeting, and that's the next time where the board is going to have to declare whether you're going to actually do I'm actually a month ahead of schedule, which thank goodness I was on this referendum, so we have time. But the board will have to decide next month whether you're going to go forward using the legislation and build Wilder Way, or if you want to go the referendum route. That's the next step in July.
And if
Okay, thank you.
And then if we do, if that does get approved, if we do move forward with that, just so the public is informed, what's the time frame on that breaking ground? When would it be open? Can we share those details or no?
After the first of the year. If I look, I won't go through every.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
I've got 9 different dates here, but there is a process to get this done and get the bonds issued and all of the legal paperwork that has to be done. But by the time we saw the money come into the coffers and would be ready to go, would be first of the year.
And then this might.
And that would align with what we're kind of thinking with the training center as well,
That was my
correct?
next question.
So
Okay.
they could be doing it approximately the same timeline.
Which could be helpful.
The difference being with Wilder Way, we will need to issue some bonds, so that takes a little bit more time. But because we're taking reserves we're recommending we take reserves for the training center, that may be a little faster than issuing bonds. It could be,
Potentially.
Okay. Very good.
So the funding of Wilder Wade is solely bonds. You're not taking anything out of reserves?
Well, that hasn't been decided.
We haven't
That's a
decided.
decision.
I would recommend we take a bunch of reserves out rather than having it for the grandkids of them to pay.
Okay. I mean, that's the conversation the board will have to have and make a decision in July to give me direction on which avenue you're going to pursue and what that's going to look like.
I think that the majority of the board does agree that we should use some reserves for Wilder Wade as well. But we'll have to have a little bit more lengthy discussion.
Sure.
Before we
Yeah,
jump
and I just-
completely into Wildwood, I would like to, the training center, I've been on this board longer than, well, a lot of you, most of you. I've always been a fiscal conservative too, and, we've had to say no a lot of times. And the reason is, we knew we'd have these needs coming up. Well, supporting is Wilder Way, everybody understands, it is our #1 priority. There's no surprises or no questions about that. If this training center goes on first, it's because it's a much simpler facility than an elementary school, which is gonna take a great deal of planning, before we jump into that. Ever since I've been on this board, I kind of watched my votes, trying to, save money where we could, put more money into reserves, knowing that Wilder Wade is coming, knowing the possibility of something like this was out there, so that we could afford this, you know. Thank you for coming, dance team. I've been watching you for years. Your team is fabulous. Your coach is fabulous. The fact that I've said many times that our high school team is better than most college teams that I've seen. Our dance team is award-winning. Imagine what they could do if they didn't have to practice in the hallway. You know, if they could actually practice in a When you were sitting out here 5 years ago, we didn't have a wrestling program, and we voted it in. We now have a state champion. I doubt if there are too many programs that could match that. So, Greg, congratulations, especially given that not very amenable practice facility you have up in the atrium in the gym. You know, all of our, we're working in the DAC. We all know that the DAC is past due. Its time is come and gone, and it's too small. It's 10,000 square feet. You know, this is 4 times that size, and we've assembled this thing at a cost that is affordable, and I'm hoping that the board can accept. And I think our students, all of them on Dr. Dearman's list, and there are others. To me, you all know it, I've always been big on extracurriculars because I think extracurriculars, including athletics, are a big part of a student's educational process. They teach you things that I'm sorry, teachers, you just can't learn them in the classroom. And it gives them life lessons that make them go on and be ready to be very successful adults. So I think our students, we can afford this. I think they deserve better than what they've got, and we're trying to do it at a number that's affordable and palatable to this board, or at least the majority of the board. So thank you for coming out. We're trying to do what we can to give you better opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Kathy?
Wisdom. Yes, Mrs. Holzhauser.
I'd like to make a comment here. I'd like to thank Mike, for putting all the effort into this and all the time that he's put into it. And as far as fiscal responsibility, he's right there at the top. He and I, ran that project for the district office, several years ago. We did as much as we could to make sure that the price was the best we could get. We came in under budget. I truly thank you, Mike, for everything that you put into this, and I know that, exactly where your heart is with all these students. We have a great student, and thank you for the accolades to all the students that are currently there. I apologize they can't be there, but just want to give you just that additional recognition for everything that you do. Thank you, Mike.
Teresa, not everybody could hear you, so could you repeat all that? Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate it. I'd also like to say thank you to the Estes guys who are here tonight. That fiscal conservativeness, we've asked them to do all of this work to date on spec. We have not paid them a penny. And they put in hours and hours of their time, their expertise, their experience, picking this up, putting it in this corner. Can we pick it up, put it over here? We can. This is the best location. And I just want them to be recognized for all the things they've done so far and have not charged us a penny for it. So thank you, fellas.
Any further comments from the board? All right, I guess we will move on to the next. Did you have anything else, Dr. Dearman? All right, thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for those coming. And I also want to echo Mr. Wisdom, Mr. Tyra, those of you on the committees. I do appreciate the time that it takes. These projects are never easy because you're kind of pulled in several different directions. I also want to give a shout out to the people here today. We appreciate hearing your thoughts. And I used to be an Eagleette too. And we used to practice in the halls too. But I hope that, we can get something together that everybody can agree on. And we appreciate your time coming during the summer. Thank you.
Dance out here?
They could dance with their papa. You could ask them.
Come on, show us your rendition.
Mr. Wagaball would like the dance team to dance out of here.
Backflip your way out.
Okay, the activity reports have been included in the board packet. Are there any questions? Any questions on the activity reports?
I have questions on the activity reports.
Okay.
These are on our agenda, and we have really no insight into what's being collected, what's being spent. Apparently, there's a fundraiser that was for the benefit of the athletic department that pulled in $50,000 or something. I don't see that on here, and I don't know if it's actually part of the school or it's part of the foundation, or this makes me uncomfortable looking at this and doing a consent agenda when we have no idea what the expenditures are, or what the collections are. So I'm not sure why we're approving it or we're reviewing it without having any details, and I'd like to request the details, so we don't have to ask for them every board meeting.
Would you like to address that?
Mike, you want to address that, please?
Obviously, all these are fundraiser dollars, so they are district funds. They do appear on our annual AFR. They didn't until last year. They just changed the state accounting rules, or the accounting rules changed, the state finally changed it. So they do appear on our AFR here in total. I don't ask for detailed records of them. I mean, they're controlled by the principals at the individual schools and or the athletic director at the individual schools. They all have a secretary that, keeps the records for them, so there's multiple people involved. We have them audited every year by Gorins. It's not really part of the financial audit, but we have them, so they bring me all their records in the summer, and then Gorins, when they come in August, Gorins is our financial auditor. Russ Rumble, whoever comes, he's their partner that does that. So they do get audited and everything. So we can provide you any information you want. I mean, as far as the athletics doing fundraiser stuff, you also have a separate issue where these are our student activity funds, our fundraisers that are run by the students within the thing. But then we have boosters out there that are separate financials, or separate entities. We do not control them. We do not control their bank accounts. We do not do this. So they do a certain amount of fundraising themselves. We heard from the football person who was here today. I mean, those booster clubs are separate 501c3, charitable organizations, and we allow them to use our facilities and everything to do their things. But so that's where our control is the fact that they're using our name and using our facilities. So we have some control, but they are separate organizations. So again, they do those fundraisers. We don't see those numbers. That's all in there. So there are controls in place. If you want more information on anything, or just routinely get a more detailed report, we can get you a more detailed report. Right? Not worried about that at all. Like I said, I usually only look at it in detail in the summer. I don't look at it in detail because that's the principals are looking at it. The individual coaches, sponsors of the individual groups look at it, and the clerical person who's doing the reports of the schools.
And don't we have a monthly accounting of all the funds that are in the different?
It shows balances, it shows the pluses and minuses,
Right.
but it doesn't show any detail.
Doesn't show what they're spending it on. That's up to their discretion.
Mike, those funds are all raised by those individual groups, right?
Yeah, I look at it as it's owned by those individual groups.
Yeah.
And so our oversight usually is things like, this year, if you look, robotics has a lot of money. And so when I met with Katie a couple months ago about her budget, I talked to her about robotics because, you're not supposed to be raising funds just to raise funds. You're supposed to be raising funds for projects, for, benefit to the school or the students. That's always what I tell people. It's got to benefit the school or the students. And so you can't just raise funds in perpetuity and not have a plan for it. But robotics, I questioned it, and they, explained some of their goals, and some of their funding is they're expecting to kind of dry up a little bit. No, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But so they've got some trips planned and different things that we're spending money on. So anyway, so it does get looked at, and like I said, the sponsor looks at it, the principal's in charge of it, or the athletic director, and then the clerical person, is the one who actually writes the checks. So there are internal controls just from that separation.
So that's money they raise themselves for their own programs. It's not money that they get from us.
Correct.
We don't
None of that money
need
comes from us.
Right, but we have to look at it anyway?
Excuse me?
We have to look at it anyway? I mean, what's our risk?
Well,
What's our risk from looking at it, and let's say something
there's
is
no
wrong?
risk looking at it. Like I said, I can provide report. I'm just talking in general. That's why usually we don't look at it too greatly because it's being raised by the kids, it's being approved by the sponsor and the principal. And so, we don't necessarily I don't try to exert any control over it other than questioning large dollar amounts occasionally.
And Goran's does the
And
audit
Gordon's
yearly,
is
yes.
a financial audit where they look through the check registers and all those kind of things.
Well, I for one, I mean, I only experienced with tennis, but I know the kids, they volunteer to teach at tennis camp. They have the little bitty eagles come and they teach the kids. They collect a fee for that, and then that helps offset the costs when the tennis team goes to tournaments. And the parents can, offer to pay for rooms, but for those that go off to conference or whatever, that's paid for out of that money. So I appreciate the fact that they try to raise money to do that.
Yeah, we want to encourage it as much as humanly possible.
Sure.
Because, we fund everything to a certain amount. There's, small supply budgets and, and never enough. And
Repairs.
And so then they do these fundraising to do the other things that the students and
The
coaches
extras,
want
yeah.
to get accomplished. And some of it's just simply on supplies, some of it's on trips, some of it's, it's on different things. But yeah, I can get any detail you like. I mean, they do, the other thing around here, activity funds have a tendency to be kept track of in like Excel or something. They're usually not, they don't have an accounting system for them. You can buy accounting systems for them. In my last district, we did go with an accounting system for them that I can pull up reports myself for all the schools. But it's relatively expensive to be able to have an annual rate, so we don't have that too. But I'll look into getting it for them.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? The board policy revision recommended by Press Update 114 has been included in the board packet. Do we have any questions?
Just some information. I read through the whole thing. I didn't know if everyone got a chance to read through it. The main thing that I found is that there's, whenever there's harassment based on race, color, or nation of origin, those complaints are required to go to the board as opposed to other grievances by any other groups. That was the only thing that I found.
So would that be included, you mean if there is a formal complaint or if there's a disciplinary issue?
A grievance.
Have we had any grievances? Formal grievances?
No, this is just, it's just one of the things I wanted to call out. That was the main thing that was in the Press Plus.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't notice nothing that was truly significant. There were some footnote changes, some added terminology, but I think you looked at it as well.
The bigger update is coming, they were a little vague, I'm guessing August, September-ish, and that's the one we're gonna need to look at a little more closely.
Okay. Thank you for looking at that, Mrs. Smith. Next, Dr. Dierman will present information regarding Wilder Waite Elementary School. Information regarding the out-of-state culinary opportunity has been included in the board packet. Any questions? Information regarding AP course textbook proposal has been included in the board packet. Are there any questions?
Another information item, I've read through these textbooks and I didn't find anything that was offensive or that could cause anyone to feel unsafe.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Smith.
I got a question on that. So look, those ESSER funds pay for that, right?
Correct.
And if we didn't use them here, where else can we use ESSER funds? I mean, I'm just saying.
Other supplies.
It's gotta be on.
We have to take receipt of everything by September 30th.
It's gotta be on teaching supplies or.
Instructional supplies or anything else that we need.
Anything instructional, you can't use it to build a building.
No, or to pay an aid
We
or.
don't have that much left, so,
Can it be used for salaries?
it can, but we have used them for salaries for the past couple of years, but since, again, you have to take receipt by September 30th of this year, we don't have any salaries tied to it, we plan for that, knowing that it would be a cliff into the fund, but no longer do that.
How much do you have left, ballpark? Are you and the guy behind you thinking through how you're gonna use that?
Based on all the feedback we got to do, yeah, I'm the person who completes the grant application and honors that.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. This concludes the information discussion item segment of the meeting. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or discussions regarding items on the consent agenda? May I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Roll call vote, please.
Olshauser,
Teresa?
Aye.
Thank you.
Humbles,
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Motion carried. Board will now move on to action items. Bill list, treasurer's report, district investment report are all included in the board packet. May I please have a motion to approve payment of the bills?
I move to approve the payment of the bills in the amount of $5,272,573.69 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Any discussion?
Yeah, is this amount correct after the reduction, after removing the 4,900? Is the amount correct after removing the 4,900 that was voided? Okay.
Roll call vote, please.
Humbles,
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the copier replacement proposal is included in the board packet.
Dr. Humbles, I'd like to move to table this until after closed sessions.
Copier?
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a motion? There's a motion to table this. Is there a second to table it?
Second that. You're talking about bringing it back tonight, though.
Yeah, after the,
That's
okay.
fine. I'll second Mike's motion.
Okay, Mr. Feldman will second to table this until after closed session. May I please have a roll call vote? Well, I guess we could just, all in favor say aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Information regarding the Dunlap Support Personnel Association contract is included in the board packet.
Yeah, so, I'm not trying to copy Mike on the copier, but, contract, I'd like to make a motion to move this to after closed session.
Wait until after closed
Yeah.
session. Okay, we have a motion to table this until after close. Is there a second?
Second.
That'd be Mr. Feldman, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. All right, we will table that until after close as well. Approval of FY '25 Federal Grant Consolidation Plan is in the board packet. May I have a motion to approve the plan?
I move to approve the 2025 Federal Grant Consolidated Plan as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is that Mr. Feldman? Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonbach.
Aye.
Wisdom.
Aye.
Motion carried. This concludes the action item portion of the meeting. May I please have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
I'll move
Would you
to,
like me to read this, Abby?
Sure, if you want to.
Tim was ready.
You probably know it by heart.
ABC.
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: the appointment, employment, compensation, and performance of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, collective negotiating matters, litigation, security procedures, discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed, and the purchase of real property.
Did you memorize that, Mrs. Holzhausen?
Impressive.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. Wagenbaugh, thank you for second. Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Time is 7:03. Did you want to, will this go in there, or should we call my cell phone?
You'll need to call your cell.
Can you call my cell in about 3 minutes, Teresa?
I will.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
motion to return to open session?
I motion to return to open session.
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser and Mrs. Smith. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the human resource consent agenda?
I move to approve the human resources consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holzhauser. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. All those in, oh, no, I'm sorry. Roll call vote, please.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Olshauser?
Aye.
Humbles?
Aye, motion carried. May I have a motion to approve the Dunlap High School Assistant Principal Contract?
I'll move to approve the Dunlap High School Assistant Principal contract as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Wagonball. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Linda was first.
Okay, it was Mrs. Smith. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach?
Aye.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Olshauser?
Aye.
Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye.
Motion carried. Like to move back to an action item to approve the copier replacement proposal with the exception that was discussed previously.
I'll move to approve the copier replacement proposal as presented with the understanding that Mike McKenzie will talk with the supplier and with the schools and reduce the number of copiers that we have to purchase under that contract. And then come back to us with a report at the next board meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Roll call vote.
Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach? Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman? Aye. Olshauser?
Teresa?
Aye.
Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye.
Before I ask for this next motion regarding the Support Personnel Association contract, I would like to say that negotiations on a whole were very, very collaborative, and we worked hard to do what's best for the kids in the community and our workers. Our support staff, they are part of the lifeblood of our school. They not only assist our students, but they assist our teachers and often do jobs that sometimes go noticed and sometimes not. But we really appreciate our support staff. We value them. And I'd like to thank Mrs. Smith and everyone on that committee that worked hard. And we met a lot of times. And Dr. Dearman was there, Mr. Andrews was there, Mr. McKenzie was there, and so I would like to say that I think that negotiation went very smoothly, and I'm proud to actually make the motion to approve the Dunlap support personnel contract as is included in the board packet. So may I please have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to thank the members of the board and the staff and members of our paraprofessional program who spent so much time negotiating the contract. And as you say, it's such a collaborative fashion. Nice to see that.
Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. Anyone else? Okay, roll call vote.
Wisdom?
Aye.
Feldman?
Aye.
Olshauser?
Aye.
Humbles?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Tyra?
Aye.
Wagenbach?
I'm gonna vote aye, but I just wanna be thankful that they do have the option to opt out if they aren't a believer in union contracts.
Okay. Thank you. Motion carried. Information regarding the, where we go back to the action of resolution authorizing the notice to remedy.
I'd like to
Teacher.
move to table that motion.
Okay, is there a second to table that?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Mr. Wisdom? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, I guess that's it, right? We've got those.
Motion to adjourn.
May I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved. So second.
Was that Mr. Ty? Oh, thank you, Mr. Feldman. And may I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried, and